Well, wasn't that bullish? How's the vibe, guys? You guys feeling strong, feeling good? Love to hear it, guys. Now, we're going to bring Seg here back on stage because we have something very important to discuss. We're going to be having a panel here on how early stage apps win. So, don't we all want to know how they win? I know I do. I'm probably going to record this one privately. But to support us, we've got a panel of some real specialists. We have Kunal Limaye, a Google Cloud Web3 engineer, George Pagonis, who does BD for DoraHacks, and Mark, the CGO and co-founder of Nuvolari.ai. So please welcome to the stage Kunal, George, and Mark, and also Seg. Welcome back, Seg.
Hey, you're doing great. Yeah, let me just sneak by here.
Hey again. So this panel, as he mentioned, is called How Early Stage Apps Win. But before we begin that, because a few of us on the stage have been building a hackathon, as I mentioned in the last panel, we're going to talk a little bit about that for the first few minutes, and then we're going to move into the How Early Stage Apps Win panel. So just to begin, this is George from DoraHacks. So they're our infrastructure partner for the user track of the Jailbreak Hackathon, which is on jailbreak.soniclabs.com. And this is Kunal, who is from Google, and they're providing the model that users are attempting to jailbreak right now. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of color on how the hackathon formed and what was the thinking behind it, and sort of how it's progressed so far. And then we can progress into the panel. So. Just to start off, I think we'll start with Kunal, who initially had the idea for the MVP of the hackathon, which was really to engage users in a hackathon, which is traditionally not the case. In the past, it's always been sort of devs building stuff, and then a product comes out of it, and then sort of you have a winner at the end. But this is a very non-traditional way of doing a hackathon in that we wanted to involve both sides of the community. So if you think about a chain, it's mostly comprised of, there are other stakeholders, but the vast majority of stakeholders are devs or users, right? And devs build the apps, and the users use the apps. And so what we wanted to do was engage both sides, and actually the hackathon premise is users versus devs. So we're pitting users and devs against each other in this AI and blockchain intersection hackathon. And so we thought it was a really cool idea, and so far we've gotten really good feedback, and people are really excited about this concept. And I think that it uniquely demonstrates the chain's ability to sort of interface with an AI model. And the way you do it is you're submitting prompts and trying to jailbreak the AI on chain. And so I'll let Kunal describe a little bit about his initial conception of the system, and then we can discuss a little bit of how it's gone so far.
Yeah, I'll try and keep it very short, but it was interesting when we started discussing this in the sense of what would the UX look like, what would the UI look like. And nowadays, I think it's pretty easy to put something together quickly with a generative AI kind of piece. And we built that tooling, I think, what was it, in a couple of days, a basic MVP. But the really interesting part for that was that when we built that product, that minimum viable product, we never thought that someone would actually use generative AI to try and break the bloody thing. And people started using Gen AI to generate prompts to try and see how they can break this MVP. That was just looking at that was quite interesting. In hindsight, I think it was quite obvious that people will do it, but something like that was just an interesting experience to be part of.
Nice. So yeah, just to reiterate, sort of the four entities that were involved in creating this hackathon is Cantina. So Cantina is actually here. A couple of reps from Cantina are here with us. They designed the AI prompts and basically the Guardian, the AI Guardian, that then interfaces with Google's Gemini to create the system that users are trying to jailbreak. And then on the dev side, they also designed the contracts that are meant to be exploited. So the premise is users have to try and get the AI to give them a private key. So it's guarding a private key. Users have to prompt the system. Every prompt costs money. And as users fail in terms of their prompts, the money goes to the pot and the submission cost increases. So if you look on jailbreak.soniclabs.com right now, you'll see the submission cost is at, I think, 35S right now. It started at 10. And the pot is, I think, 55,000S right now. Nobody's solved it yet. It's quite a difficult challenge because it requires some really creative prompt engineering to be able to solve it. But so Cantina designed these AI challenges, and they designed the security challenges, which is on the dev side. Basically, devs have to exploit contracts and get up to a certain threshold of the amount of contracts they've exploited. And the idea is, if users are able to solve their track, then users take the whole 55,000 pot. If devs are able to solve their track, devs take the whole pot. So you'll see a users and devs tab at the top of the website. But if both of them solve it, they'll split the pot. So the idea is, by the end of the conference, the Vienna conference on May 8th at 11:59 UTC, if devs have solved it, then they get the full pot. Users have solved it, they get the full pot. If both have solved it, they split the pot. So I encourage you to try your luck. I think the submission cost is pretty high right now, but try it out. You have a chance to win 55,000S or half of that. And yeah, so again, Google, Kunal came up with the idea and the model and the MVP. Then DoraHacks and Cantina, as I mentioned, designed the exploit contracts and also the AI system. And then DoraHacks is the infrastructure partner who's hosting the dev track. So when you want to submit your results, you have to submit the private key to DoraHacks. And George was an integral part of the collaboration. So they've hosted hackathons for Sonic before. And so in order to win on the user track, you're going to have to submit through DoraHacks. So George, why don't you talk a little bit about just the initial phases of this and how we came up with it, and whatever your thoughts are on hackathon.
So obviously we hosted the DeFi AI hackathon, which was a huge success, and Nuvolari obviously was a winner of that, or one of the winners. And when we were coming up with something to do for the Sonic Summit, it was how can we engage developers in the best way possible, but actually do something that's meaningful and cool, right? So this was actually a pretty unique idea that came out of it, which was to do kind of a jailbreak hackathon, rather than having 2 days of developers building something and submitting something based on an idea, because obviously 2 days isn't enough time to actually build something meaningful. So with this, it was like, okay, how can we use our platform to support this idea? And that's kind of how it played out, where splitting up the dev track and having that on Cantina, and then having the user track on DoraHacks came to light. And now on our platform, when you do go onto the user track and the hackathon for the Sonic Summit, you'll be able to see how to run through the process, where to submit your prompt, and then if you are successful, and once you get through, then you'll submit that into the DoraHacks submission portal, where we'll be able to see kind of what's going on. So all of the submissions are private, obviously, so then people can't come in and just copy what you've done. So that's kind of coming along nicely. We have seen, I think, 250 attempts.
Yeah, and they're expensive too, so that's a good amount, yeah.
So it's cool. It's really cool to see. So it's definitely something unique that we haven't particularly done on our platform before, but it's something super cool. So I'm happy to be here and doing it with you guys.
Yeah, and what's interesting, one thing that that uniquely the blockchain provides is, I realized when I usually build Web 2 apps, I have to create some sort of rate limiting system or something where users can't spam my endpoint and to make sure that it doesn't get overwhelmed, or I don't spend a bunch of money on API calls. What was interesting with the blockchain, because there's a submission fee baked in, that is an anti-spam mechanism that automatically sort of is integrated into the system. So what my actual system does is it grabs the prompt not from the user's submission on the front end, but because the prompt is submitted to the blockchain in plain text, the system itself reads the blockchain for the prompt submission, and then tries to submit that to the AI model and get the output from that, and returns that to the front end. So it's quite an interesting thing that I realized, that with blockchain applications, certain traditional methods of development are no longer required, because the blockchain acts as a sort of a guardian or a server in some ways, and sort of it's interesting when you're developing in Web3 versus Web2 that your development style changes and your security considerations change and that kind of thing. So just a little build note that I think was interesting when I was going through the process. So once again, Cantina are the gigabrains behind the contract exploit piece for the devs and the AI prompt engineering system for the users. DoraHacks is critical infrastructure partner for our hackathon. They've been a great partner so far. And Google has provided, obviously, the model, and Kunal, the MVP and the idea for the thing. So all four of us have come together to create this experience for the Vienna summit. And I think that so far, there's a dev who's at 170 points in the exploit track. So he's almost there, but those last 30 points are going to be very difficult to accrue. So devs still have a shot if you guys want to try and exploit the contracts. And then for users, nobody's solved it yet. So let's see. The difficulty adjusts, the prompt difficulty adjusts when we hit 50S submission fee. So when we hit 50S, it'll become easier. So maybe watch out for that and try your luck. We have a day and a half, I think, left or so. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see who wins the 55,000 that's in the pot. So yeah, just wanted to brief you guys on the hackathon, and there's been a bunch of announcements about it already, so most of you probably already know about it. But cool, I wanted to go into really quickly early stage apps, how they win, what they're, when you have a USP, how do you sort of capitalize on that to make yourself stand out amongst all the other apps in the crowd? What I wanted to do to start off with is, since Nuvolari partook in our previous hackathon, I wanted to ask you, from your perspective, during that process, what was your thought process? How did you end up winning? And then how did you sort of, how was your sort of formation of your idea, then sort of the execution, and then the win ultimately? So if you can go through that process for us.
Yeah, surely. So Nuvolari, for those that don't know it, is a personal wealth copilot that saves you 15+ hours every month on chain. And the thought process was that we, after complaining for the 10th time of rebalancing our LP position, rebalancing our portfolio, and managing all our assets spread around different wallets, we said we want to build something that can reclaim our time and pretty much find our own edge and not basically focus on these non-meaningful tasks. So that was the ideation. In terms of execution, we decided not to build basically just open models. We think that intent aggregation is also a good solution. So what we decided to do is, pretty much focus on giving value to the Sonic user base, focus on the on-chain power users, and we find out there's a lot of activity on DeFi. So we actually shipped bookmarks, .Nuvolari.ai, which is still live, which is basically just a side product to give you the value of Nuvolari in the future. So we always save for later. So we save threads for later. So what we did is we summarized all the best DeFi threads in the Sonic ecosystem to just get you an idea how many tickers, how many protocols are on Sonic, and for users actually to use it as a mind map or also as an execution tool. So that's the second step of Nuvolari. So we shipped the insights, which is nothing else than a personalized, executable on-chain transaction based on your basically risk profile. So we track your on-chain history, we track what you do on-chain, and we give you some recommendations. So that was basically the main piece that we developed for the hackathon. And in terms of attracting users, I think it's really good to resonate with them. We believe there's going to be a lot of feature parity in the AI space. So you really need to find them where they are, whether it's giving them some extra insights in the DeFi strategies or actually be very tailored and personal to their own risk profile. So that's something is going to be live soon on Sonic. So you're going to see your mood, and that's going to be unique for you. And hopefully we get it right. So hopefully you're going to see some cool tasks that you basically can execute in one click. Yeah.
Amazing to see AI projects on Sonic doing so well. I think one thing that I wanted to ask you as well is how did you identify your niche initially, and what was the key to gaining early traction in this noisy market?
Yeah, I think the first step was, of course, like checking the vibe of the community, understanding what the users are doing, what they're excited about, and then combining that with on-chain data. So we just run some Dune dashboards and understanding where the high value nodes of the ecosystem are. And we understood that our target user is somebody that values his time, So he's mainly active on 5, 6 protocols, and he's also not opening too many positions. So I understood that from the on-chain data.
Nice.
And then what I think is very important is to give value, as said before, with like shipping fast with something is really tangible, you can try it. And we know like in AI and DeFi there's a long pipeline to build products. But yeah, in short, pretty much giving some value up front and making sure they like the product, get a lot of feedback. We had like 50 interviews, which a large portion of those were Sonic users. So yeah, that's definitely a very good starting point to win early stage or at least get some traction in a big ecosystem like Sonic.
Nice. So I hear data and like analysis of your target demographic or your target user, identifying them, what their problems are first, and then providing value to that user to capture them upfront.
Yes,
so
correct.
Very nice, very nice. And then shipping fast, obviously, that's really important. So how do you balance the speed of shipping with technical robustness when you're in the early trenches? So for example, like you're trying to build really fast, like I mentioned, right, in a previous panel, but also you need to make sure that, especially in the blockchain space, that your contracts are secure, your systems are secure, and all this kind of stuff. And sometimes those two things can be at odds. So how do you navigate that?
Yeah, so on the AI front, we benchmark different models, and basically the way it works is like a LangChain agent that orchestrates different workflows. But to make it very simple, it just gets data to you, and that's what's powering the insights. And on the partner side of things, we partner with Enzo to ship fast. It was their basically API, and we managed to get a wide distribution of Sonic protocols thanks to them. And that was way, way faster than integrating each protocol individually. That's not something we're excluding, but it's very helpful to have partners like Enzo basically it's the intent engine that powers the Nuvolari insights. Yeah.
So then what I hear there is, instead of rolling your own thing necessarily as components of your system and reinventing the wheel, you can use existing solutions in order to speed up your execution that you know are already secure and plug them in and then sort of build a broader product out of your own engineering for where you need custom stuff, and then you use other people's stuff to plug in to make sure that you can ship fast and also have robustness, right?
Exactly.
Very nice, very nice. Cool. So that's a really good overview of Nuvolari. Thank you so much for that. So I want to just go to George for a second and ask, since you come from DoraHacks, for what you've seen, you've presided over many, many hackathons in the past. What separates teams that stand out and win on DoraHacks from those that fade away? And like, which teams and projects have longevity after the fact of the win, and then which ones sort of fade afterwards?
Yeah, good question. So I think there's a couple of components that kind of make up that question. So when a hackathon gets launched, Mark hit the nail on the head where projects need to come in or founders need to come in and actually understand the user, build a solution to a problem, and not just fork something from another ecosystem, right? So that's something that we see pretty often where developers will come in, they'll just see something that's popping in the Solana ecosystem and try and bring it over to Sonic, right? That doesn't make sense. It's not unique, and it doesn't matter, right? And those projects typically aren't going to win. So finding a problem that's unique maybe to a particular ecosystem or something that's missing, and then actually building that and finding a solution, and then actually interacting with the user, as Mark said, to understand the best way to go about it is really important in those initial stages when kind of coming up with an idea. And then it comes down to the execution. So, can you actually execute it to a good enough level where, when the hackathon ends and the judges are looking at it, when we're looking at it, we can actually use it and see if it actually makes sense and if the team's on the right track of building something that's actually going to be meaningful within that ecosystem. So that's kind of the initial stages. And then, post-hackathon, it's really, now you've got a bit of money, now you've got some prize pool, what do you do next, right? A lot of teams in the past, and not a lot, but I mean, it's common practice for them to just get lazy and say, you know what, now I've won this, I'm going to pivot to another ecosystem. So it's kind of a two-way street where, in this case, the Sonic team, the foundation, needs to be able to support those teams to help them continue building, and that's what we're here to help with as well. And that team building up their community and growing a community as well after the hackathon is really important to continue, getting them to that next stage where they, become venture ready and then eventually launch. So that's what we're here to help with as well at DoraHacks. But the teams that we see succeed are the ones that continue building, use that funding that they get to actually, either improve their team or, get an order if that's what they need, and then get to that next stage.
Okay, so continued support for good ideas that actually address a problem and support the user demographic that they've really identified that they're catering towards, and then so it's sort of a two-part problem, right? Having the builders have sort of fulfill their side of the equation, and then having the labs, for example, for us Sonic Labs, continue and support the builders on our side.
Correct. So I mean, fundamentally, if teams have the fundamentals correct and they have the right support and they have the right pathway, then it's not impossible to fail. But I mean, the chances of failing are more slim, right? Because they have the right support and they can go to that next level, a lot easier.
Nice, awesome. Okay, and then I wanted to switch gears to Kunal and talk a little bit about what infrastructure or tooling choices do you see early builders consistently get wrong, and what would you say is like a better path for them to take from your perspective as a Googler?
I think a big thing that happens is that people just overthink things too many times, and they just don't get to a decision very quickly. Especially earlier on, I think Mark said it, that you just need to ship it. And when you what that means is that you need to know who is going to use it, right? And if you start shipping it, you'll get that feedback very early. So getting it in their hands is very, very important. So instead of overthinking it, make a decision and being able to pivot it afterwards, right? That's more important. If you're just starting off and you're thinking, how can I scale this application to 10,000 users? That's a good problem to have. Let's solve it for first 100, right? First 10. That's really the first thing to get right. And the second thing that I find, even last week talking to a few at a conference, it was like, there is this inertia, especially in hardcore engineers, to sort of take help from Gen AI. And generative AI is really good at what it does, and it does it really, really well. It's not going to take over your job, but use it. It's a tool in your kit bag that can actually get you there quickly. So don't try and have a sense of, you still get a sense of satisfaction if you use Gen AI, if you deliver the right product. So it's just really picking the right product and not building everything from scratch, right? Like those were two things that I would say are important.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree with the last sentiment there. So I used to use a lot of, I've been using different models to write most of my code recently. And then what I will do is I'll supervise it and sort of debug around the edges. I think one of the most capable models, I used to never use Gemini models before until Gemini 2.5 came out. And I've been sort of evangelizing to my dev friends that 2.5, and not only developers, but also like people who like to write and other things. 2.5 has an insane context window that I think only Google provides. And then also it has the intelligence, which is, I think, probably better than Claude and OpenAI generally. For the most part, I've never seen anything. So every time a new model comes out, like it's all exciting and all this kind of stuff, and it's like a step change. And so I think Gemini 2.5 right now is one of the leading models, and it's just super intelligent. And for a lot of people,
you're doing a great job. You should be sitting in this chair.
Yeah. So no, I'm really glad, and that's actually what presides over our jailbreak competition. So which is why it's so difficult, because it's quite good at keeping the private key secret. Although there is a solution, like the Cantina guys have a solution, and they've actually jailbroken it themselves to test whether it was possible. So for those of you who are trying and think it's not possible, it actually is possible. It's just very difficult for the hackathon stuff. So Kunal from Google, we're just about at time, but thank you so much for spending time with us, and super cool to work with you all. And congrats on the win again. And yeah, thank you everybody for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks, man.
Hello.
Almost tripped over it.
How'd it go? You doing great?